Good morning, this is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. I have not made a video in a while, and I wanted to say thank you for folks who've been patient with me while I have been on an unplanned break. Maybe I will get into more of why that is in another video, but as of right now, it's quiet, it's early in the morning, and I thought, like, I have a few minutes here and I can make a video. I'm actually working on knitting a sweater. Ta-da! This is yarn that I bought last summer, I think. I made a video where I talked about it, and I'm finally getting around to knitting a sweater for myself because we've been iced in for a solid week and it's been kind of quiet around the house. We actually lost power twice, once for 16 hours, and I'm really grateful that we have a wood stove and we're able to stay warm. The whole family camped out in the living room and we made grilled cheese on the wood stove. So it's pretty quiet and chill this morning. The kids are still asleep. It's thawing outside. Hopefully life will be back to the normal routine tomorrow. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about a comic that got shared on a mutual's Facebook page and the kind of ensuing conversation that happened. I think it's important to discuss the kind of like dynamics and the thought processes behind it. And it basically is saying that, you know, kids today don't have the same experiences that we had, right? I'm 44 years old, and, you know, a lot of us that are kind of Gen X, Zennial, elder millennial, we had a pretty free roaming childhood, right? With a lot of us facing kind of a latchkey situation and a lack of parental supervision. And that meant we were really free to kind of explore the neighborhood, do our own thing. You know, my mom had a dinner bell and it was like, go outside and go play with your friends and don't come back till I ring the dinner bell. And so this comic is, you know, basically making assumptions or starting a conversation about why it is that kids today don't have the same experience that we had. And the jab that they're making is it's because our children are buried in video games, right? Like the iPad kids. And so I took some time to make a lengthy reply in the comments because I have so many feelings about this. My kids are 21, 19, 15, and 12. And when my eldest kids were little, we were very much an anti-screen family. We don't have a TV. I haven't had a TV in 20 something years. But we do have tablets and laptops. And we will go over to my sister's house and watch movies on her big TV. And my kids will play with her VR headset. We don't limit screen time for our kids. And obviously not now that they're older, but even when they were younger, it was not limits, it was not rules, it was an ongoing conversation about, do you feel that you're having healthy life balance? How much time have you spent on a tablet today? Are there other things you would like to be engaging in? Is what you're doing on the tablet meaningful for you? Are you getting something out of it? And so I realized that is kind of a different perspective than a lot of parents. A lot of parents, and I've seen teachers on TikTok and social media expressing frustration about some of the behavioral issues they see in kids and blaming it on kids with too much time spent in front of a tablet. And the problem is that kids are video gaming too much or they're watching videos too much. You know, and my reply to this kind of notion of, well, kids aren't out playing outdoors anymore and not experiencing like a real rugged free roaming childhood like we had, is because they're on video games. To me, that feels really lazy. It's the same kind of lazy reply, easy scapegoating reply as kids are having behavioral problems in school. Kids don't know how to write anymore. They are struggling academically because of tablets. I feel like those are both the same easy, lazy argument to make. It's easy because we didn't have tablets when we were kids. And we didn't have YouTube when we were kids. And this is something new and different. And kids are spending a lot of time on social media or video gaming. And therefore, it's a difference that we can easily see and we can easily poke fun at. We can easily blame. Rather than delving deeper and saying like, maybe there are some larger structural problems that are the reasons kids aren't playing outdoors and the reasons kids are struggling in school. And maybe those problems are not the fault of children. They're the fault of us, the parents, and of the grandparents' generation, right? Like it's easy to blame kids and their time on video games, for the circumstances kids are experiencing and the struggles that they're having versus the environment that we have created and plunked our kids into. So in terms of this comic that got shared, right, like I had a lengthy reply. And some of the reasons that I think kids aren't playing outdoors or parents don't want them to play outdoors, you know, here in Portland, in East Portland in particular, we have very bad air quality. And it's hard as a parent to want your kid outside playing when the outdoor environment is less pristine, is less safe, is less child-friendly than it was when we were growing up. So we're looking at bad air pollution. We're looking at a lack of sidewalks in our communities, while at the same time, design in cities that is extremely friendly to vehicles and extremely unsafe for kids and cyclists, pedestrians. We are looking at, in cities all over America, and particularly in Portland, looking at you, Portland City Council, a rapid and disastrous loss of our urban tree canopy, which means that the outdoor spaces where our kids would be playing in our neighborhoods are hotter, drier, less safe, with no shade in them. So the circumstances we have created in our cities make it less safe, less enjoyable, less likely for kids to want to be outside, and less able to actually stay outside in a way that protects their safety and their health. Like, why would I want to leave the comfort of my home and go play outside if it's a scorching hot concrete jungle where I have to dodge speeding cars and where like the air quality exacerbates my asthma? Right? Did kids do that? No, we did that. Our local governments did that with their policies that are extremely friendly to development and corporate interest and not designing for livability and safety and community and family. But let's keep blaming video games. The same thing with schools, right? Like if kids are having learning issues, if they're not performing up to the level we expect in schools, is that really because they're on tablets? Or is it because our kids have survived a pandemic? They've survived tremendous upheaval in our society. Their parents are more precarious. Their parents are working longer hours. They are seeing, you know, their resources, their dollars not go as far. Their families are struggling more. Parents are less involved because they're working harder and longer just to keep a roof over their kids' heads and food on the table. And the stress in the household, the anxiety in the household is felt by children. When families are financially more precarious, that is felt by children. Add to that the anxiety and stress of living in a COVID reality, of living in having gone through lockdown and the trauma of kids losing their parents and grandparents and aunties and uncles and teachers in the pandemic. And the way that that impacted their development to go through that period of time, and the ongoing lingering stress of basically being told get back to normal and being gaslit by our society, that the health risks that are still very real and prominent, we should just ignore them. And that we now live in a reality where you're going to get repeatedly infected with something that can cause long-term cognitive impairment and, cardiopulmonary health impacts for you. Let's not diminish the fact that kids see and know and experience those stresses. So health stresses and anxiety, economic stresses and anxiety, tension in the home based on these external forces pressing in on families. But it's the video games that are causing kids to have behavioral issues. If you think that our children are not aware of and experiencing the socioeconomic, political, and human rights issues that are going on in this country and around the world, and feeling the anxiety from that, the sadness and grief from that. I mean, kids are online. They do see the news. They do experience conversations and footage and very vivid images and discussions about the precarious nature of our political climate, of our economic system, of conflict around the world. they see all of that and they internalize and know all of that. And imagine being a child or an adolescent, powerless to change those circumstances, knowing that adults are effing it up really bad and not being able to change those things. All of that is impacting our kids' academic performance, is impacting their behavior in public and in school. But it's easier to blame video games. So when we're looking at people care and permaculture, when we're looking at designing from patterns to details, when we're looking at designing for sustainable communities, all of these external factors are experienced by our children and impact their outlook on life, impact the way that they engage in the environment, whether they can go outside to play. They impact their behavior, and it has ripples for everybody and has lasting impacts on our kids. And I would add on to that, as a family that sees tablets and technology as a tool, I don't deny that there are unhealthy relationships that we can have with technology, especially when we're looking at platforms like TikTok. Like, you know, it's easy to kind of doom scroll, right? And I can see that part of parenting is having those conversations with our kids about healthy life balance, about modeling for them, about coaching them, about helping them learn how to interact with technology on a healthy level. That's parenting, right? Teaching our kids how to engage with realities. Like the fact that social media is here, it's not going away. It's a real part of our culture, our society, that our kids have to navigate an online world. They have to navigate utilizing technology and how to interact in social spaces in order to have a job and function in the future. Like, these are necessary skills. Part of parenting is not just like chastising kids for playing video games. Video games are fine. Or for using technology and being online. It's helping our kids learn how to utilize those elements of our society in a healthy way, in a beneficial way. And rather than vilifying them, right? And obviously tablets and other tech are accessibility tools for kids with disabilities. And obviously in a, post-COVID reality, social media is a legitimate and real way that kids can socialize and people can form human connection. And that's important when we're looking for community, right? Our community has the potential to be expanded because of social media. So I think it's a real lazy tactic to blame video games and screens and online time and tablets for the struggles that our kids are going through. And if we're going to be permaculture people who design for people care, who design for future generations, who design for sustainable communities, we have to look at what are the things that we have done, even though it doesn't feel very good. What are we as grownups doing? What are we creating in terms of structures and passing down to our kids? How have we set up the dynamic that is causing our kids to struggle, and how can we remedy that? What systemic changes do we need to bring? Preserving the urban tree canopy, creating parks, making sure that kids and teens, someone made this point in the thread of it's considered socially unacceptable for teens to kind of hang out or loiter in public places. And then we get mad at teens when they are on their tablets all the time, gaming with each other. So how can we make our communities more inclusive of children and adolescents? How can we make them safer? Sidewalks, tree canopy, public places where kids can gather. How can we learn to support our kids through all of the really difficult external factors that they can't control? Teach them good social emotional development, good coping mechanisms, good emotional literacy, help them access support structures where they need them. This is all permaculture design, right? All of these elements are what we look at when we look at permaculture design, saying, here's a problem. How can I make it be the solution? How can the problem be the launching off point? Not to blame children for using video games, but saying what is the reason that kids are utilizing video games? And what are the real reasons that kids aren't going outside to play? What are the underlying issues that are causing behavioral issues for our children? So using the problem of kids aren't going outside anymore, or kids can't write like they used to. I mean, I would argue that typing and learning to use a tablet is more useful than writing with a pencil, but in our modern age, but how can we use those questions about the problem in order to get to the root of what the problems are and design systemic changes that better benefit everybody, right? And create a more sustainable world and create a higher quality of life and livability for our kids. And I think it can be really daunting. When you start with that line of questioning, it can really blow up, right? You end up seeing all of the connections and seeing the way that it actually takes significant infrastructure change to remedy these situations. It's lazy, it's easy to blame something surface level that we are not responsible for and use it as a scapegoat to say, like, these really hard, deep, difficult things that people are dealing with, let's blame this one easy little thing over here, video games. It's easier to do that than to realize how complex and intricately interwoven the structures of oppression, of exploitation, of anxiety and stress are in our society. How it's not that our kids are not playing outside anymore because of tablets, but it's actually they're not playing outside anymore because our laws and policies of our government enable corporations to destroy and decimate the livability of our communities. Like, that's a much harder problem to fix. That is much more complex and daunting. But if we want to have sustainable communities in the future, we're not going to get there by just being like, it's really easy for me as a mom to shame other moms who let their kids have unlimited screen time. That's like easy and it makes me feel good in the moment, like I feel morally superior. This feels over here broad, deep, invested systemic change where you're like fighting large structures of power. Like, that's a lot more daunting, but that's what it takes in order to create sustainable communities. So I will leave it at there for now. But for me as somebody in 2024, like if you follow me on Facebook, you'll know that I've been increasingly frustrated at just the life that we're all forced to live right now, due to power structures that we don't currently have control over, due to a complete lack of earth care, people care, and fair share in our communities. So I want to talk a little bit more about like what my headspace has been the last month or year, how it's been evolving, what I think that means for shaping the way that I view permaculture and view designing sustainable communities and sustainable ways of interacting with the planet. But I will leave that here for now, and I think that's the topic for the next video. And then I will hopefully get to the giant backlog of other topics I have on my phone and unedited footage I have yet to get to. But thanks for watching. Thanks for being patient with me while I was gone. I'm going to do my best to kind of ramp back up here. Just know that I'm riding the struggle bus real hard in my real life, and I am super grateful for folks who continue to throw $3 a month at me on Patreon, even if I'm not cranking out 5 videos a week like I was, over the summer. Knowing that there are seasons in life and that consistent support is really important to my family, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate folks who can see the bigger picture and say like, oh, I'll go back and watch some of your older videos and still feel that I can engage meaningfully with your permaculture content, even if you aren't having the capacity at the moment to put out the same amount of content that you were, several months ago or a year ago. And I'm hoping to get back up there. I'm just like, the burnout is intense. So anyway, I will leave it at that for now. Thank you again for watching. Please click like and subscribe. Please share your thoughts about what you think earth care, people care, and fair share permaculture ethics look like in 2024, whether you're in America or not. I would love to hear what you think that is shaping up to look like for you this year. And I will be back really soon. I promise. It won't be a month. I'll be back real soon. Bye-bye.